How are you guys doing this morning? Is everybody doing good? I know a couple of kiddos have said they've been having some internet issues. Are you guys all doing okay though? Good morning, Eric. I am doing good. What is it going to be the best month in Vegas, Taj? Ah, fun times, Angeline.
I think the one part that I'm most anxious for is like waiting. I'm not scared of the doctors, but it's like I hate the waiting rooms because it's always so quiet and tense because everybody's so weird, like they don't want to go, but they have to. I haven't
Yeah.
been to and I haven't been to a doctor's office in a while, so.
Yeah, the going
But
and you
when you
get there
don't
on
get on
time and then you
time,
wait forever.
your time skips. I hate it when that happens. That used to happen to me so often, where it's like my mom, like they would have a problem where they would have to pull me out of school, so I'd have to go to a different appointment, and my mom, she would end up showing up late, and they'd be like, oh, we called her name like 20 minutes ago, why aren't you here? And we show up on time.
Of course. Fun times at the doctor's offices, right? All right, guys. So I put out in the announcements, I had put it on like the remind text messages, but now I'm actually going to have you guys do it while you are in class. So I need everybody to go to the announcements section on your page, if you would please. And you'll see where it says teacher survey. So this is our warm up for today. I need you guys to come to the announcement and you're going to click on the link. And okay, Samuel, you already did yours. Okay, good. All right, Taj, you did. Okay. So that's 2. I only have like 5 of you guys have done it, and I have like 60 of you guys. So I need you guys. It'll tell you, Adriel, if you click on it, if you've already taken it. Okay. So that's what we're doing today. This is our warm up for today. I need you guys to take there's, I think, like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's like 5, 6 questions. Awesome. Thank you, Gabriel. Awesome, Adriel. Thank you. So yeah, there's like 6 questions. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to do it, but I kind of need you guys to do this for me today. I just figured we're just going to take some time in our warm up and let's just do this now so that it's done. If you would, please. So how about when you have finished the survey and you have submitted it, tell me that it's done in the chat, if you would, please. I would appreciate that. So I know like Adriel did it, Taj, Samuel. If you guys could just let me know when you finished it, just put that in the chat. That would be awesome. And then once you have finished that, if you would open up your Module 8 Lesson 1 course arc and your journal for that so we can finish those up today. Yes, Adriel.
I forgot what the essay, how many sentences you wanted in the paragraph essay thing.
For this particular journal?
The M7 Module 7 Japanese Silk Workers essay thing.
So it's 3 to 5 paragraphs. And remember, each paragraph has to have a minimum of 5 sentences.
Oh, 5 sentences and 3 paragraphs. Which is probably what I'm
doing. If you can get it all in there and talk about at least 3 documents and 5 sentences per paragraph and only 3 paragraphs, then you are absolutely welcome to do so.
Okay.
Okay? All right. Thank you, Ryan. And I'm assuming the rest of you guys are currently working on that. Those of you who have finished, make sure you open up your Module 8 Lesson 1 Course Arc and Journal. So yesterday, a few like housekeeping items here. So yesterday I sent out failure emails to you and your parents, because remember, I always send them to you and your parents. So if I'm sending your parents something, I'm sending you the same thing so that you know exactly what I have said to your parents. The failure emails went out. Just as a reminder, another one will be going out again on Friday, because all work for third quarter is due on Monday the 6th. That's an NVLA requirement. So the work that we do after the 6th next week is going to go into quarter 4. Any students that are currently failing my class, I send out emails every week, Gabriel. This particular week, because we're coming up on the end of the quarter, I'm sending out like every couple of days. I'm sending out emails. Remember I told you guys I'm the mom, so that kind of nagging thing is going to happen, and this is where I'm going to start nagging again. So those went out just as a reminder, okay? I also put in that email the fact that I opened up all the Module 7 assignments. So any Module 7 assignment that had already closed was reopened. So course arcs, journals, quiz, like the Module 7 quiz, and the projects. Okay, so there are multiple summative grades that had already closed that I reopened yesterday that will close on 11:59 p.m. on Monday, March 6th. So this coming Monday, all of that is going to close. This is your I don't know, what would we call it? Your pass, your extension, your get out of jail free card. I'm not sure what we want to call it. But if you did not take care of business, you didn't do your journals, which are all summatives, you did not get good grades on your projects, and didn't have time to go back and fix them because you turned them in so late, here is your opportunity to raise your grade. Okay. If your grade is currently sitting at a failing grade, so you are below a 60% in here, this is your opportunity to raise your grade to passing. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about any of the Module 7 assignments that I can answer for you right now while I'm waiting for other students to finish the survey? Taj, you're okay? All right. Are the rest of you, guys are okay? No questions? Okay, so I'm assuming you're still working. Oh, you're welcome. No problem, Gabriel. Thank you for being very polite about that. Oh, are you making waves in your thing right now, Brian? Cool. Yes, Adriel, all of Module 8 assignments have been reopened. Or no, not all of Module. All of Module 7 assignments have been reopened, and Module 8, we're in Module 8 Lesson 1. It hasn't even closed yet. Awesome. Thank you, Sabrina. I knew exactly what you were talking about, Gabriel. I knew. I figured it was just a slip. I completely understand that. So maybe a couple more minutes, guys? Do y'all need like a couple more minutes to finish up the survey? Okay. All right. let's see. All right, so let's see. We're going to do a video on the Renaissance. That's how we're going to start when we start getting into this. And then we have another video on diffusion that's in our actual course arc. And we're going to talk about, different types of diffusion and the wave of cultural diffusion that began and kind of followed through after the Renaissance. And then I've got a really cool animated map. It's in the course arc if you guys haven't seen that. And it shows you the spread of religion around the world. It's actually a really cool one. And then we have a couple of questions that we're going to answer. And then we'll move on to the 2 questions that are in your journal, which is the Google Map tour. So we'll do that. And in our course arc, and then in the journal. And then we'll go into a video over how the English language developed, because it's a Germanic language. And then we'll answer the writing prompt in our journal, okay? It should not be. Hold on. Let's see. Hang on a second. My Canvas is taking me a little bit of time here, guys. No, it's not closed. So I'm looking at Module 7, Lesson 1, and it doesn't close until March 6th. The course arc. Let me look at the journal. Maybe actually I closed down most of my tabs, but thank you for thinking of that, Adriel. I appreciate that.
Oh, so you're not one of those teachers that has like way too many tabs that are open.
Oh, no. I normally do, Adriel. I promise you, I normally do. Yesterday, while I was sitting in the small group meet, I see the one you're talking about, Nisa. Hold on. I missed one. I'm sorry. It's the journal. I thought I had updated that. The journal, if you refresh your Canvas page now, it should be updated to show it open now. Nice, okay. You're welcome. Hey, I'm sorry. I was just trying to go through and click all of those yesterday. So, no, Adriel, yesterday while I was doing small group meets and working on grading assignments, helping students, doing a few other things I needed to do, I had my laptop plus my work laptop, and for you guys, I have 3 screens going, and then I had the other laptop going, and I looked down, I was like, I was feeling really overwhelmed at one point, and I realized I looked down, I had 46 tabs open between the 4 screens. I was like, okay, we need to shut some of this down. That is just a little bit too much. Yeah. Yeah, I was like, I pride myself on being able to multitask, but I think that was just a little bit on the crazy side. All right, I think, Nisa, do you want to look and make sure that they're all good to go? If you would for me. Just in case, I think I have them all good and set, but now you did. Thank you, Gabriel. Now I'm kind of worried that I might have missed something. So I don't want to miss something, especially when I tell you they're all open. All right. So how about While you guys are still working on the survey, do you want me to go ahead and play the Renaissance video? That way we're kind of, it's just kind of, we're bringing it from last week, you know, yesterday, or not yesterday, Monday's lesson. We're just kind of like kind of going through it, and then we'll go into the cultural diffusion. Do you guys want to do that?
Yes, please.
Does that sound good? All right. So give me just a moment because I have to click on it. Okay. And then, you know, I have to mute myself. So give me a moment.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm John Green. This is Crash Course World History, and today we're going to talk about something that ought to be more controversial, the Renaissance. So you probably already know about the Renaissance thanks to the work of noted Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael, but that isn't the whole story. Mr. Green, what about Splinter? I think he was an architect? Ugh, me from the past, you're such an idiot. Splinter was a painter, sculptor, and an architect. He was quite a Renaissance rat.
No problem. My king, what the kiddos are doing, if you have not already done so, while we're playing the Renaissance video, kind of a refresher from Monday's course, our class that we did, if you would go into the announcements and complete the teacher survey that is in our announcements while this is going, okay? I know, right? Gotta love Mr. Green. Hang on.
Right, so the story goes that the Renaissance saw the rebirth of European culture after the miserable Dark Ages, and that it ushered in the modern era of secularism, rationality, and individualism. And those are all on the list of things we like here at Crash Course. Mr. Green, I think you're forgetting Cool Ranch Doritos. Yeah, fair enough. Then what's so controversial? Well, the whole idea of a European Renaissance presupposes that Europe was like an island unto itself that was briefly enlightened when the Greeks were ascendant and then lost its way and then rediscovered its former European glory. Furthermore, I'm going to argue that the Renaissance didn't even necessarily happen. But first, let's assume that it did. Essentially, the Renaissance was an efflorescence of arts, primarily visual, but also to a lesser extent literary, and ideas in Europe that coincided with the rediscovery of Roman and Greek culture. It's easiest to see this in terms of visual art. Renaissance art tends to feature a focus on the human form, somewhat idealized, as Roman and especially Greek art had. And this classicizing is also rather apparent in the architecture of the Renaissance, which featured all sorts of Greek columns and triangular pediments and Roman arches and domes. In fact, looking at a Renaissance building, you might even be able to fool yourself into thinking you're looking at an actual Greek building if you sort of squint and ignore the fact that Greek buildings tend to be, you know, ruins. In addition to rediscovering, that is, copying Greek and Roman art, the Renaissance saw the rediscovery of Greek and Roman writings and their ideas. And that opened up a whole new world for scholars. Well, not a new world, actually, since the texts were more than 1,000 years old. But you know what I mean. The scholars who examined, translated, and commented upon these writings were called humanists, which can be a little bit of a confusing term because it implies that they were concerned with, you know, humans rather than, say, the religious world, which can add to the common but totally incorrect assumption that Renaissance writers and artists and scholars were, like, secretly not religious. That's a favorite area of speculation on the internet and in Dan Brown novels, but the truth is that Renaissance artists were religious. As evidence, let me present you with the fact that they painted the Madonna over and over and over and over and over and Stan! Anyway, all humanism means is that these scholars studied what were called the humanities: literature, philosophy, history. Today, of course, these areas of study are known as the so-called dark arts. What? Liberal arts? Oh, Stan, you're always making history less fun. I want to be a professor of the dark arts.
A dark arts job. It's a dangerous position.
Yeah, I guess that's true. So we'll stick with this. Right, so here at Crash Course, we try not to focus too much on dates, but if I'm going to convince you that the Renaissance didn't actually happen, I should probably tell you, you know, when it didn't happen. So traditionally, the Renaissance is associated with the 15th and 16th centuries. The Renaissance happened all across Europe, but we're going to focus on Italy because I want to, and I own the video camera. Plus, Italy really spawned the Renaissance. What was it about Italy that lent itself to Renaissancing? Was it the wine, the olives, the pasta, the plumbers, the relative permissiveness when it comes to the moral lassitude of their leaders? Well, Let's go to the thought bubble. Italy was primed for Renaissance for exactly one reason: money. A society has to be super rich to support artists and elaborate building projects and to feed scholars who translate and comment on thousand-year-old documents, and the Italian city-states were very wealthy for two reasons. First, many city-states were mini-industrial powerhouses, each specializing in a particular industrial product, like Florence made cloth, Milan made arms. Second, the cities of Venice and Genoa got stinking rich from trade. Genoa turned out a fair number of top-notch sailors, like, for instance, Christopher Columbus, but the Venetians became the richest city-state of all. As you'll remember from the Crusades, the Venetians were expert sailors, shipbuilders, and merchants, and as you'll remember from our discussions of Indian Ocean trade, they also had figured out ways to trade with Islamic empires, including the biggest economic power in the region, the Ottomans. Without trading with the Islamic world, especially in pepper, Venice couldn't have afforded all those painters, nor would they have had money to pay for the incredibly fancy clothes they put on to pose for their fancy portraits. The clothes, the paint, the painters, enough food to get a double chin, all of that was paid for with money from trade with the Ottomans. I know I talk a lot about trade, but that's because it's so incredibly awesome, and it really does bind the world together. And while trade can lead to conflicts, on balance, it has been responsible for more peaceful contacts than violent ones because, death is bad for business. This was certainly the case in the Eastern Mediterranean, where the periods of trade-based diplomacy were longer and more frequent than periods of war, even though all we ever talk about is war because it's very dramatic, which is why my brother Hank's favorite video game is called Assassin's Creed, not some Venetian guys negotiate a trade treaty. Thanks, Thought Bubble. So here's another example of non-Europeans supporting the Renaissance. The Venetians exported textiles to the Ottomans. They were usually woven in other cities like Florence, and the reason Florentine textiles were so valuable is because their color remained vibrant. That was because they were dyed with a chemical called alum, which was primarily found in Anatolia in the Ottoman Empire. So to make the textiles the Ottomans craved, the Italians needed Ottoman alum at least until 1460, when Giovanni di Castro, Pope Pius II's godson, discovered alum in Italy in Tolfa. And he wrote to his godfather, the Pope, "Today I bring you victory over the Turk. Every year they wring from the Christians more than 300,000 ducats for the alum with which we dye wool various colors, but I have found 7 mountains so rich in this material that they could supply 7 worlds. If you will give orders to engage workmen, build furnaces, and smelt the ore, you will provide all Europe with alum, and the Turk will lose all his profits. Instead, they will accrue to you." So the Pope was like, heck yeah! More importantly, he granted a monopoly on the mining rights of alum to a particular Florentine family. The Medicis, the ones you always see painted. But vitally, Italian alum mines didn't bring victory over the Turks or cause them to lose all their profits, just as mining and drilling at home never obviate the need for trade. Okay, one last way the Islamic world helped to create the European Renaissance, if indeed it happened. The Muslim world was the source of many of the writings that Renaissance scholars studied. For centuries, Muslim scholars have been working their way through ancient Greek writings, especially Ptolemy and Aristotle, who, despite being consistently wrong about everything, managed to be the jumping off point for thinking both in the Christian and Muslim worlds. And the fall of Constantinople in 1453 helped further spread Greek ideas because Byzantine scholars fled for Italy, taking their books with them, so we have the Ottomans to thank for that too. And even after it became a Muslim capital, Istanbul was still like the #1 destination for book nerds searching for ancient Greek texts. Plus, if we stretch our definition of Renaissance thought to include scientific thought, there is a definite case to be made that Muslim scholars influenced Copernicus, arguably the Renaissance's greatest mind. Oh, it's time for the open letter? An open letter to Copernicus. But first, let's see what's in the secret compartment today. Wow, the heliocentric solar system? Cool. Earth in the middle, sun in the middle, Earth in the middle, sun in the middle. Ptolemy, Copernicus. Right, an open letter to Copernicus. Dear Copernicus, why you always gotta make the rest of us look so bad? You were both a lawyer and a doctor? That doesn't seem fair. You spoke 4 languages and discovered that the Earth is not the center of the universe? Come on! But at least you didn't discover it entirely on your own. Now, there's no way to be sure that you had access to Muslim scholarship on this topic. But one of your diagrams is so similar to a proof found in an Islamic mathematics treatise that it's almost impossible you didn't have access to it. Even the letters on the diagram are almost the same, so at least I can tell my mom that when she asks why I'm not a doctor and a lawyer and the guy who discovered the heliocentric solar system. Best wishes, John Green. All right, so now having spent the last several minutes telling you why the Renaissance happened in Italy and not in, I don't know, like India or Russia or whatever, I'm going to argue that the Renaissance did not in fact happen. Let's start with the problem of time. The Renaissance isn't like the Battle of Hastings or the French Revolution, where people were aware that they were living amid history. Like when I was 11, and most of you didn't exist yet, my dad made my brother and me turn off the Cosby Show and watch people climbing on the Berlin Wall so we could see history. But no one like woke their kids up in a Tuscan village in 1512 like, Mario, Luigi, come outside, the Renaissance is here! Hurry, we're living in a glorious new era where man's relationship to learning is changing. I somehow feel a new sense of individualism based on my capacity for reason. No, in fact, most people in Europe were totally unaware of the Renaissance because its art and learning affected a tiny sliver of the European population. Like, life expectancy in many areas of Europe actually went down during the Renaissance. Art and learning of the Renaissance didn't filter down to most people the way that technology does today, and really the Renaissance was only experienced by the richest of the rich and those people, like painters, who served them. I mean, there were some commercial opportunities, like for framing paintings or binding books, but the vast majority of Europeans still lived on farms either as free peasants or tenants. And the rediscovery of Aristotle didn't in any way change their lives, which were governed by the rising and setting of the sun and intellectually by the Catholic Church. In fact, probably about 95% of Europeans never encountered the Renaissance's opulence or art or modes of thought. We have constructed the Renaissance as important not because it was so central to the 15th century. I mean, at the time, Europe wasn't the world's leader in anything other than the tiny business of Atlantic trade. We remember it as important because it matters to us now. It gave us the Ninja Turtles. We care about Aristotle and individualism and the Mona Lisa and the possibility that Michelangelo painted an anatomically correct brain onto the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel because these things give us a narrative that makes sense. Europe was enlightened, and then it was unenlightened, and then it was re-enlightened, and ever since it's been the center of art and commerce and history. We see that cycle of life and death and rebirth a lot in historical recollection, but it just isn't accurate. So it's true that many of the ideas introduced to Europe in the 15th and 16th centuries became very important. But remember, when we talk about the Renaissance, we're talking about hundreds of years. I mean, although they share Ninja Turtledom, Donatello and Raphael were born 97 years apart. And the Renaissance humanist Petrarch was born in 1304, 229 years before the Renaissance humanist Montaigne. That's almost as long as the United States has existed. So was the Renaissance a thing? Not really. It was a lot of mutually interdependent things that occurred over centuries. Stupid truth, always resisting simplicity. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. Crash Course is produced and directed by Stan Muller. Our script supervisor is Danica Jones.
Okay, so you remember when we were talking and going through the course arc, and we were talking about some of the like really important people, and we were talking about not the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but all of the rest of them, right? Was what Hitler, Adriel? Hitler's not from this time period. I don't understand what you mean.
There was a brief image of Hitler when he was describing like the Europe being lightened and relightened and unlightened.
Oh, unenlightened, yeah, during the time when Hitler was in power. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Okay, I was like, what are you talking about? All right, so hopefully, has everybody finished their surveys? Hopefully. An awful lot of you have not. Only 13 of you guys have done your surveys, guys. Come on. Okay. Yeah. And a couple of those were done already before class. All right, so let's go. Hopefully you also have, okay, Eric, thank you. We are in the module 8, lesson 1 in the course arc. So we're gonna finish this today. So the first part, so we kind of just did a little refresher over the Renaissance. It talks about, the birth of the Renaissance led to the spreading of ideas in rapid fashion. Remember how we talked about the printing press last class period and how that was a major invention, right? Because now you could create, awesome, thank you, Tosh. You could create many more books, which meant you could get that information out to so many more people. And then, translating the Bible out of just Latin into Greek, which then allowed it for it to be disseminated, spread out even further. You know, and like they're saying, like, so how did these ideas spread, especially without Twitter and Instagram? I know, shock, gas, surprise. Before the internet and social media, there was ways for things to be spread, right? Remember we talked about during the Crusades, and we've talked about like trade, you know, like in the Silk Road or the Trans-Saharan or the Indian Ocean, how, you know, people traveling back and forth, you know, not only are you trading like goods, like they talked about with the Ottoman rugs, but you're also like language and religion and clothing and food items, etc., right? And those things get traded on trade routes. War is even a way to trade stuff because you're still having interaction with these other groups, right? So they were talking about like the first ideas spread past just Italy and onto Northern Europe through trade, travel, and printed goods. This would influence ideas and art in Northern Europe. Second, trade spreads goods, right? Cities grow, which causes a trading network to grow in Northern Europe. Merchant organizations that help protect its members. This led to the building of lighthouses and the training of ship captains. So now we're talking also safety on the seas. Italian artists brought humanism to northern cities. So you would have a lot of Italian artists, and people from the northern European cities would basically be like, hey, come and paint this stuff for me. I'm going to pay you all this, that, you know, take care of you and pay you to do this. So now they're bringing their styles up north with them. Northern scholars traveled to Italy and brought ideas from France, Netherlands, and Germany. So see, there's our two-way, right? Germany and the Netherlands began using other languages besides Latin for their books. Art begins to be a combination of humanism and Christianity. Renaissance spreads to England in the late 1400s, and it becomes famous for their writers. Important writers like William Shakespeare, they use knowledge of natural scientists and humanist topics in his plays. And then German artists visit Italy and use techniques of realism in their paintings. Dutch artists developed their own Flemish school of art, again, combining everyday things with religion, okay? So let's do the Khan Academy video, and then we're going to answer some questions, okay? Give me just a moment. I can find my little pointer.
Or discovery from one place to another. The spread of ideas such as capitalism, democracy, and even religious beliefs has brought about changes in human relationships around the world. Also, the spread of many types of music, phone technology, and computer hardware and software have played an important role in how connected people are with others around the world. So diffusion often involves the expansion of ideas across the globe, and it can occur many different ways. Some ways that diffusion can occur would be through exploration, military conquest, missionary work, mass media, tourism, and even through the internet. So here are a few examples that will help us better understand diffusion from one culture to another. So food originating in America can be seen in countries around the world. For example, here is a McDonald's in Asia. Also, clothing companies like Nike located in Australia or Japan would be another example of cultural diffusion. Spanish is one of the fastest growing languages in the United States, and now it has grown so much that being bilingual is a valuable asset to have when you're looking for a job, and it's just a good skill to know. So there are also many examples of diffusion, but the big takeaway is that ideas have spread from one culture to another throughout history. And an interesting thought is that today, ideas are able to spread quicker than ever before through social media and the internet. Also, a most recent example that comes to mind is the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, and I'm sure that you can think of many other examples on your own.
So somebody said that yesterday, that they were like, what? Khan has more than math? Yes, Khan Academy does more than math. They do science, they do history, they have English, they have foreign languages. like Khan Academy has just about every possible thing you could imagine. Yes, Adriel?
It's just that math is used more popular with math class, and
It's just that the teachers in math like to use Khan Economy or Khan Academy, especially here. We were using Khan Academy in Texas in all different areas. It's just when it first started out, it did start out as a math and science site, and it has just exploded in the last 10 years. Okay. All right. So let's look at our questions that we have. Oh, wait, the animated map of world religion. It goes really fast. So you got to pay really close attention. All right. Well, yeah, it's. What is that noise? I'm hearing a noise and I'm not sure where I'm hearing the noise from. Okay. All right. So, first of all, Ryan, when you said, so BC and CE, BC, if you are going with the Christian thought processes before Christ, BCE is before Common Era, CE is Common Era. So anytime before 0 is BCE, anytime after 0 is after Common Era. So yeah, we're CE. Ryan, when you said culture lore, what did you mean by that? Oh, okay. I wasn't sure what exactly you were. Oh, okay. I was like, I'm trying to figure out like what I need to explain or okay. Okay. Wasn't sure, just checking. Okay. And then okay, so Adriel, you said Christianity is really popular. That is because both Christianity and Islam have like missionaries. They have people who go out and spread their religion and want people to join their religion. So when you think about all of the people that were out, like you think of all the Muslim traders and all of their movement, and then you think of all of the European traders, which most of them are Christian, they're also going to, they're not just going to bring goods and language, they're also going to bring religion with them as well. Okay. All right. So which religion is the oldest? Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, or Islam? It is Hinduism. Good. Good. All right. And actually, if you really think about it, Buddha was a Hindu prince, Siddhartha Gautama. And then you do Christianity. Jesus was a Jew. And then you have Christianity coming from that. And then you have Muhammad taking aspects of both Judaism and Christianity, because they're all Abrahamistic religions. And then that comes from there. How did ideas from Europe make their way to other parts of the world back in the old times? Yep, through trade. Good. And then cultural diffusion still happens today? Absolutely true. True. Good. All right, so let's go to the Google Maps tour. So let's look at each of these areas. So, you know, you click on the little globe, right? And it takes you each of these areas. So in the journal, when it asks you, how do all of these relate to the lesson? We're talking about how do Italy, Great Britain, Russia, Hungary, and Germany relate to the lesson. So we have Italy, historic blend included with the earliest Etruscan and Latin tribes that set the stage for the rise of the Roman Empire. So we know the Etruscans were among the oldest documented civilizations in Italy, and they came from Southwest Asia. And then you had Albanian, Slavic, Celtic, and Germanic peoples also settling in Italy. So you have Italy, is that the host culture? No, I'm not opening up module 6. I opened up module 7. Okay. So you have like the culture of Italy kind of taking over all of the groups that came in there. So they, yes, you do, Kenneth. You do have module 7. Everybody does. Like the groups coming in there, bringing their belief systems with them and stuff, but kind of being taken over by the Italian belief systems, right? And then the next one, we talk about Great Britain. Remember Northern Europe that they were talking about, British Isles, originally inhabited by pre-Celtic Germanic tribes. Romans, Anglo-Saxons, and Normans all invaded, sacked, left their mark, and then left that area. And then, of course, you have the British Empire, which spread everywhere, right? Russia. They're strongly influenced by Western Europeans, especially in the Western Russian area. The Eastern Russian area is going to have a lot more Asian influence. A majority of Russians consider themselves to be European, although their culture holds many influences from Asia. They are overwhelmingly Christian. Think of them as Eastern Orthodox instead of Roman Catholic, but it kind of a lot of similarities. They speak Indo-European, where was I? They speak an Indo-European language related to the Slavic languages of those regions and embrace Western popular culture with enthusiasm. Okay. Let's go to Hungary. By the end of the 19th century, more than 50% of the population of Hungary was non-Hungarian. This multinational Hungarian state disintegrated at the end of World War I. And most of the ethnic groups that lived under the Hungarian crown for centuries found themselves other newly founded or newly independent nation states. The population transfers after World War II, so further homogenizing Hungary's population. The most numerous ethnic group in Hungary are the Roma, who make up just fewer than 2% of the population. Some say 4%. So traditionally one of the most marginalized and vulnerable groups in Hungary, the Roma to this day experience discrimination. Guys, the Roma would be the ones that we would colloquial think of as gypsies. Okay. And then Germany. So, process of German nation building began more than 1,000 years ago. Yet the formation of a politically unified territory was not completed until 1871. Starting in the 1830s, German nationalist movement sought to unify German-speaking populations in Europe based on the idea of ethnic nationalism. This concept is based on the premise that people who share similar biological and cultural attributes, such as bloodline, language, and religion, should be ruled under one government. Can you see with that thought process in the 1830s how we would eventually get to what came about under Hitler with World War II? Okay, it's not something that just was new. Those seeds and those thought processes had always been around in the Germanic culture. Okay, so let's go back to our thing, and it says, which was a politically unified country that did not exist until 1871. Which country is that? That would be Germany. Good. All right. Minorities make up less than 10% of the population. Hungary. Some people consider themselves to be Europeans, even though there's great Russian. Good. Historically, it's been invaded by Germans, Romans, and Normans. Great Britain. And then one of the oldest groups to settle there were the Etruscans. Good. All right. So what could we say about for the Google Map tour? I mean, I'm thinking definitely we're going to be talking about migration, right? Right. So if we say these countries have been affected by migration of peoples over time, because we're talking about change over time, starts with the Etruscans that settled in Italy, which has led to them now calling their population Italians. No matter how many people live in Italy, they all have conglomerated under one culture. Many of these countries are made up of European, Gypsy, and even Asian lineages. This is mainly due to invasion by Germans, Romans, and Normans. So what can we say? We need to add something about culture, right? And diffusion. So could we say all of these migrations have led to cultural, not, well, I don't know about that. Can we say it's led to the cultural diffusion? I don't know. Anything else that we should put in there? I'm asking you guys. All right, so we have our last one that we need to do, which is the writing activity. We're going to do our quick video on how English has evolved. And then you guys are going to write a 5 to 8 sentence paragraph explaining this. So let's do our video.
Imagine each of these two scenes in as much detail as you can. Scene number 1. They gave us a hearty welcome. Well, who are the people who are giving a hearty welcome? What are they wearing? What are they drinking? Okay, scene 2. They gave us a cordial reception. How are these people standing? What expressions are on their faces? What are they wearing and drinking? Fix these pictures in your mind's eye, and then jot down a sentence or two to describe them. We'll come back to them later. Now, on to our story. In the year 400 CE, the Celts in Britain were ruled by Romans. This had one benefit for the Celts. The Romans protected them from the barbarian Saxon tribes of northern Europe. But then the Roman Empire began to crumble, and the Romans withdrew from Britain. With the Romans gone, the Germanic tribes, the Angles, Saxons, Jutes, and Frisians quickly sailed across the water did away with the Celts, and formed kingdoms in the British Isles. For several centuries, these tribes lived in Britain, and their Germanic language, Anglo-Saxon, became the common language, what we call Old English. Although modern English speakers may think Old English sounds like a different language, if you look and listen closely, you'll find many words that are recognizable. For example, here's what the Lord's Prayer looks like in Old English. At first glance, it may look unfamiliar, but update the spelling a bit and you'll see many common English words. So the centuries passed, with Britons happily speaking Old English. But in the 700s, a series of Viking invasions began, which continued until a treaty split the island in half. On one side were the Saxons, on the other side were the Danes, who spoke a language called Old Norse. As Saxons fell in love with their cute Danish neighbors and marriages blurred the boundaries, Old Norse mixed with Old English, and many Old Norse words, like freckle, leg, root, skin, and want, are still a part of our language. 300 years later, in 1066, the Norman conquest brought war again to the British Isles. The Normans were Vikings who had settled in France. They'd abandoned the Viking language and culture in favor of a French lifestyle, but they still fought like Vikings. They placed a Norman king on the English throne, and for 3 centuries, French was the language of the British royalty. Society in Britain came to have 2 levels: French-speaking aristocracy and Old English-speaking peasants. The French also brought many Roman Catholic clergymen with them, who added Latin words to the mix. Old English adapted and grew as thousands of words flowed in, many having to do with government, law, and aristocracy. Words like council, marriage, sovereign, govern, damage, and parliament. As the language expanded, English speakers quickly realized what to do if they wanted to sound sophisticated. They would use words that had come from French or Latin. Anglo-Saxon words seemed so plain, like the Anglo-Saxon peasants who spoke them. Let's go back to the 2 sentences you thought about earlier. When you pictured the hearty welcome, did you see an earthy scene with relative?
All right, so the question you're being asked on your writing prompt is, how did English evolve? So you need to talk about all of the different invaders that showed up. You need to talk about Old English, Old Norse, Latin, French, Saxon, all of those things coming in with each of the different groups that invaded and conquered. And that is, that tree. Think of that tree sprouting. Okay. Yes. Because it's not, it's all these different groups and Germanic tribes, and like they just dumped it all in there. Hence the English language. Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, we are done for the day. Make sure that you finish your paragraph. Remember, 5 to 8 sentences on how the English language evolved. You can go back, rewatch this video in your course arc, and then I will see you tomorrow, guys. Have a good rest of your day. Bye, everybody.
I actually need a question answered about the
What?
more questions about the essay thing, the essay on M7 Japanese silk worker thing. Wait, you said that the essay was like, wasn't the essay about like, I forgot.
Okay. Why didn't you come to small group yesterday, Adriel? We could have gone over that. The Google Map tour, Ryan? Are you talking about the one that's in the course arc?
Was this?
Okay. Okay, guys, you got to head to your next class. You're going to have to hang on until tomorrow. The module, Adriel, please stop. The module 7 DBQ is not what we've been talking about today, Adriel, in class. We've been talking about the